Hello there. Since this will be the first anime video on my channel, I wanted to take the time to walk you through the process I use when recommending anime to people who have not jumped into the medium. A bit of background on myself. I was introduced to anime in 2015. I was sitting in the computer lab at high school playing an Attack on Titan tribute game that I had no idea was from a show, but it was really fun. A classmate told me that it was a really good show and I should check it out. I watched season 1, and the rest is history. To date, my anime list is up to 271 completed shows. I consider myself part of this new wave of mainstream anime watchers due to what my first show was, and now I feel like I can have a voice to help some of the rest of the newer generation of anime watchers dive deeper into the medium that I've come to love. When somebody asks for an anime recommendation, the first thing that I always ask them is what type of genre do they like. For this one, I'm going to break this down into different categories like fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, action, adventure, drama, and a little bit of a kicker at the end for some of you old heads. Another factor I take into account when trying to recommend the first show is how long is that show. So for this one, I have a little bit of a simple formula where it is between 12 and 100 episodes, because I'm not going to recommend something like One Piece to start them off. I'll be honest, I haven't even seen One Piece. That is a very large mountain to climb, and to be able to just start on something so intimidating is probably going to turn a new person off to the genre. So I want to find a show that is going to be reasonable enough for them to watch, and not too long if they get really into it. And there's nothing against like a 12 episode show being on the list, it's just that there's a lot of stories out there that are just 12 episodes that are going to encourage them to go read the source material. And I'll be honest, that's also something that I haven't done. I'm an anime only. So whenever there is just like a 12 episode one shot or something like, No Game No Life. we're getting more No Game No Life, right guys? But in all seriousness, if it's just a short amount of shows and it doesn't have a complete narrative conclusion, I don't think that'd be a good show to recommend to somebody who is going to watch anime for their first time, because I feel like that just generates a bit of a bad experience, trying to direct them to a work of something that isn't just the anime itself. No more stalling, I'm finally going to get into the meat and bones of this video and start listing off the anime that I think should be introduced to a new anime watcher for their first show. Starting with my first category, action. The first show I'm going to talk about is 86. I'm throwing this in the action category because I would have a hard time making a mecha category to get somebody hooked on an anime for their first watch. I mean, like, I suppose you could throw like 86 and Darling in the Franxx in that, but for action, I'm going to be starting with just 86. The show takes place in a dystopian future where the ruling government has segregated its citizens into districts, and those of the 86th district are seen as subhuman and forced to fight for the country in its ongoing war with a fully automated enemy. Because of how they view the identities of their soldiers, the government proudly proclaims that they have not had a single casualty in the war, while the people who are deemed important live obliviously to the conflict around them. Enter our main character, a handler of the 86. She is responsible for sending them into battle, but unlike everyone around her, she is actually a normal person and sees those fighting as humans and her equals. You watch her journey to try and save the people she is placed in charge of, and try to change the stigma around them before they can become part of the zero-death fictional number of the war. Now the plot gets a little deeper and I'm not going to dive too much into it, but after all, it is an action show and you're here for these glorious money shots, am I right? The animation is so good that they delayed airing episodes of the second season to make sure they were kept on par with the quality that was expected from the viewers, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park. Featuring a soundtrack created by Hiroyuki Sawano, if you don't know him, pay close attention to the music in the show. The end credits theme slaps. 86 is an anime that handles itself well in a lot of aspects, and is a good taste of what kind of themes can be covered in a mature manner and presented in an easily digestible form to the audience. There's enough gratification to the viewer, and the level of action in this show will keep you moving on to season 2 before you need to continue with the light novel. 86 is a complete package, from the sounds to the animation to the story aspects, and it should not fail to please any new anime fans looking to pick up an action-packed show. Speaking of shows with Hiroyuki Sawano soundtracks, I don't think this next one is going to take much convincing. If you're looking for your first anime and haven't heard a recommendation for Attack on Titan yet, you're hanging out with the wrong people or looking in the wrong places. When I asked others about what shows they would recommend, this one came up the majority of the time. It's action-packed, mainstream, and publicly loved, so you can tell others that you watch Attack on Titan and you won't get the look from them. Set in a world where humanity is confined to massive walls to protect themselves from human-eating titans, you follow the journey of a little boy who wants to participate in the Kill All of the Titans challenge, impossible, gone wrong, almost caught. But things quickly spiral as the scale of the task gets bigger and bigger, and those around him start to change as the little boy grows up and faces the world at large. This entire story is a thriller from start to finish, with all the twists that you could ask for and a wide world that all comes together to form a single cohesive narrative. A lot of anime fans of my generation, like myself, got started with the show, and with the final season airing, well, still waiting on part 976, the end is near, in more ways than one. Moving on to the adventure category, my first recommendation in this one is Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is one of those shows that kind of went under the radar when it was airing initially for the first few episodes. For me, it was the animation style. I thought it looked more like a children's type show, much like I did for Ranking of Kings. But both times, I was sorely mistaken. Made in Abyss is the definition of an adventure anime, and it will delight anyone seeking a broad, mysterious world with its own secrets waiting to be discovered. In this world, there is a giant pit that has its depths unexplored, and it is full of treasure and dangers hiding around every corner. The people tasked with exploring its depths are called divers, and the one we follow is Riko. She is the daughter of one of the most accomplished divers who has received a white whistle. And she's also missing. Riko teams up with a robot named Red she encounters while on a junior expedition, and the two of them venture down into the abyss to tackle the dangers and attempt to unravel the secrets they both have in their lives. However, the abyss is unforgiving and they're not afraid to show it, which honestly makes it a bit of a tougher watch if you don't like to see children bleeding out of every orifice of their body. Because that happens. If they try to ascend the abyss, lots of bad things happen. But they go down into the abyss, bad things happen. A lot of bad things happen in this show, so I guess there's a trigger warning? But gruesome sights aside, that is just part of the harsh reality painted onto the characters living in a deep, pun intended, world in the fashion of a Studio Ghibli-esque setting, with all the discoveries made are new to the world, characters, and viewers alike. This next show is a no-brainer. Talked most notably as the #1 anime on my anime list, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a masterclass anime that, should you watch it first, you better be careful, as comparatively, it may ruin all other shows that you watch because it'll fail to capture your attention in a way that this show has. So beware not to flowers for Aldrin on yourself should you take your first step with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but let me tell you why you should. Different from the show Fullmetal Alchemist, Brotherhood faithfully adapts the manga in the way that the regular show did not, and after watching both, I can 100% say that you only need to watch Brotherhood. If anyone tells you otherwise, they're just salty that they had to watch Fullmetal Alchemist and they want you to suffer too. You don't need to do it, it's not necessary, just watch Brotherhood. I decided to put this in the adventure category, where it may not be a perfect fit, but the story follows not only the exploration of the laws of the world it is set in, but also the balance of the laws of nature and manipulating them in order to save the world. I honestly think, though, a lot of things with a save the world scale can probably fit into the adventure category. It's kind of just a big coverall. In this world where alchemy is the driving force of development, two young boys make the grave mistake of trying to practice it on their recently deceased mother in an attempt to create life and resurrect her. Because, this is typical 5-6-year-old behavior. I definitely wasn't eating crayons whenever I was younger trying to pick my favorite flavor or anything, and it's totally not Mom's apple pie. Edward, the main character, and his younger brother Alphonse end up losing parts of themselves in the attempt. Edward, his right arm and a leg, and Alphonse, almost his entirety, only left with a soul bound to a suit of armor due to his brother's quick thinking. Once Edward is outfitted with some metal prosthetics called automail, they set out on a journey for the Philosopher's Stone to restore their bodies. Edward then joins the military in order to get access to their resources on the subject, and just so happens to give them access to the brunt of the story, stopping the destruction of the world. I don't have much more to add to this, honestly. It's just a great show. Go watch it. Okay, so I'm gonna break my own rule here, because Hinamatsuri is a 12 episode show, but it's also a comedy that doesn't need any extra on top of those 12 episodes to be enjoyed. I put this in here over Konosuba and Golden Kamuy, as I feel both of those have comedic aspects on a similar level, but Konosuba requires more anime watch to appreciate the comedy, mainly isekai, and Golden Kamuy is so much more than just a comedy. This is also probably super niche, and I have to shoehorn it in somewhere because I absolutely love this anime and it doesn't get talked about enough. Hinamatsuri is a self-reflecting comedy slash coming-of-age story that forces the cast of funny characters to also grow up in different situations. I'll probably make a video on this anime just in the future because there's too much to mention here, but basically the plot goes like this. A Yakuza member named Nita is admiring his expensive vase collection when suddenly a strange capsule appears out of thin air, and out pops the mysterious Hina. Possessing telekinetic powers of epic proportions, she could prove to be a valuable ally for Nita. Until she loses control of her power and wrecks the vase collection right before his eyes. Now he has to raise this girl and find a way to let her use her powers regularly so she doesn't explode and destroy his apartment again. Sounds easy, right? How hard could parroting be, right? Raising Hina on her own proves to be a challenge, not to mention the added pressure of being a Yakuza and dodging other challenges life throws at them, including Hina's rival Anzu. I could talk about Anzu's character for a lot more time than I have set aside for this segment of the video, and why I can relate to her character so much, which is saying something, as this show features an underage bartender who is trying to just become independent and make ends meet. All in all, this is a series that needs a bigger spotlight, as it is quality and all around an enjoyable package in 12 episodes that makes it really easy for a new viewer to digest. Moving on from a lesser known show, we head on over to one that is in the spotlight of greatness every time it airs each season, Kaguya-sama: Love is War. It's fit for a romance category, but its strength lies in its comedy. This show throws you into the minds of two top high school students on the student council, the president, Shirogane, and vice president, Kaguya, who have a mission to make each other confess their love first, as whoever confesses first is the loser. That's it. That's the entire plot. No, really, that's it. Amazingly simplistic, with a hilarious cast that just goes through their lives with the over-the-top strategies and the amazing supporting characters like the lovable and memeable Chika, to the average Discord user, which yes, that's canon, Ishigami. The council is packed with so much character that I'm amazed the student council room they are in contains it as well as it does. Even the supporting cast who is not on the council, like the president's little sister Kei, and Kaguya's servant Hayasaka, who could have a whole show to herself, add to the glorious situations that our main cast find themselves in. Spectating their day-to-day lives and battles between the two leads is such an enjoyable experience that you will travel in time saying there is no way this 24-minute episode was any longer than 5 minutes. In this case, I think less is more and that I will let the show speak for itself. Go watch it, come back, and thank me later. Once again, I'm breaking the rule I set for myself for the amount of episodes, but really, being less than 12 episodes and still on this list should be a testament to how good the show is. Anohana, the flower we saw that day, is not something to be taken lightly. You want a drama and you're gonna get it. This one fits into the drama category for its story being mainly about letting go of the past, mending relationships, and creating a better future together with those around you that you care for. The main character, Jinta, has reverted to a shut-in and isn't attending school until his childhood friend Minma starts asking him to help her grant her wish. This is a slight concern to Jinta, as Minma died years ago, but slowly comes to terms with it that he is able to see her ghost and needs to help her grant her wish in order for her to rest peacefully. After her death, their friend group fell apart, and it is up to Jinta to reunite them in order to lay Minma to rest for good. However, the process causes them to go through their guilty memories and to have to cope with the past they did not want to relive. This is a deep show about coping with death and keeping your connections healthy. And by the end, don't be surprised if someone near you is cutting onions, because this show, out of all 270 plus that I've seen, is the only one that's made me shed a tear. Once you watch it, when Secret Base comes on, you'll feel it too. Okay, so for this next one, let me just start by saying this is not a furry anime. Watching this will not make you a furry. But if you want to explore something like that, go do that on your own time. Use your own resources. I'm here to talk about Odd Taxi. What can I say about Odd Taxi that will make someone who has never seen an anime want to watch not only this, but potentially more anime afterwards? What if I told you this is the best anime mystery of all time? This taxi driving walrus gets messed up in a sinister plot happening around him, and he needs to not only cope with his own problems, but help out his friends and those who care about him in the process. Will the hardened criminal kill our beloved taxi driver? Will his crush still fall for him after he pushes her away for her own protection? Why is the dodo bird the most important animal in the series? Watch Odd Taxi and find out. With only 13 episodes and the most satisfying narrative conclusion I have ever seen in an anime that ties up every single end that was loose throughout the whole series, if I could only recommend 3 anime from this list, this is certainly in that top 3. Watch Odd Taxi. The Ancient Magus Bride is still to date the best fantasy I have seen since it aired. Nowadays, all you see is isekai as the only form of fantasy worlds, and I can only assume it's because the creators know they won't get anywhere close to the scale that Magus Bride is at all. A true fantasy at the heart, this story follows Chisei, who is sold at an auction to our ancient Magus Ainsworth. He takes her home to his cottage in the English countryside, which is a bonus that enhances fantasy, in my opinion. She will soon learn more about her past that is clouded due to her magical abilities, since she is what's known as a slay beggy, or a human with a high affinity for the magical world. Ainz helps Chisei learn more about the world around her that she was so afraid of before, and slowly warms up to the idea that she does belong in it. After surviving a traumatic childhood, Chisei and her new friends that are formed in this magical society go about their business in a mostly lighthearted day-to-day adventure type narrative. But don't let the happiness fool you, as there is still very real and very serious character development moments that happen out of nowhere. When just seconds ago you were smiling and happy with the characters, the very next moment your day changes when something goes wrong, not realizing how quickly you got attached to the beautifully written cast of this top tier fantasy world. The Ancient Magus Bride is a series that I got into early in my anime days and is still a series that has long lasting impressions on me still today, and after everything I've seen too, is really a testament to how well this world was created. I'm a big fan of fantasy stories, and if you are also a fellow fantasy enjoyer, then please give Magus Bride a chance, and I can assure you that it will be a memorable experience. The next recommendation I have for you exploded onto the anime scene in 2018 and gave watchers an actual reason to open up their Netflix accounts solely for the purpose of watching anime. Violet Evergarden, made by the renowned Kyoto Animation, captured the hearts of those who watched it with its stunning visuals, immersive setting, and deep story about learning what it is to be human. Our main character and namesake of the series, Violet, was a young girl used as a killing machine during the Great War. After being wounded severely in one of the last battles before the war ended, her guardian Gilbert, referred to by her as just Major, gave her his final words, which have stuck with her until she wakes up in a hospital recovering from her wounds. She ends up working for a postal service company where she wants to become an auto memory doll, transcribing people's thoughts and feelings into paper to send to those that they care about. However, she struggles at first, since up until now, she only did whatever she was ordered to do in the war, and has a hard time grasping the emotions that need to be properly conveyed. I think you might know where this is going. The journey she then undergoes to find out what she's missing is a heartfelt, genuine tale that takes you far and wide as you deep dive into the lives of those Violet interacts with. You too will be captivated by the stories and perhaps as moved as the characters are when it comes to their expressions of love, sorrow, gratitude, and more. This anime will hit anyone looking for their first, and being available on Netflix with a good English dub makes it a top contender for #1 anime that I could recommend to a new watcher. Now, as much as romance is in Violet Evergarden, we're going to move on to the actual romance category now. And I'm going to have two very different ends of the romance genre. The pill in my right hand is Fruits Basket 2019, a remake and continuation of the older show. This romance drama revived the fans of the old show and brought so many new fans into it, including me. With fresher animation and a more vibrant color palette, I gave Fruits Basket a shot, not knowing what it was, and by the end, I was stun-locked by the journey I had just traveled. Starting off in the first season, Toru Honda, who is enthralled by the Chinese zodiac she learned from her mother before she passed, is living in a tent on the property of the Soma household. She encounters one of the property owners, Shigure, one day with the prince of her school, Yuki, and they eventually learn where she is staying and take her in. But it's not long before she learns the secret of the Soma household, that when the family members are touched by someone of the opposite sex, they turn into the animals of the zodiac. Yes, it's kind of a weird plot device, but trust me, it isn't obtrusive in any way for the story's real focus. She ends up meeting more of the family members and befriends as many as she can, blissfully unaware of what happens to outsiders that learn the secrets of the Soma clan. The story that ensues, in which Toru tries to help the Somas afflicted with the Zodiac curse, is full of love, heartbreak, maturity, overcoming reliance, and breaking unhealthy tradition. This is the peak of what a show in the romance category can be while maintaining a plot with themes that are usually not touched in other romance shows. If this is the first anime you watch, I'm proud of you, and you will go on to watch other amazing anime. Of that, I am sure. However, if this one may be a little long or a little too out there for you, then let me tell you about the pill in my left hand. Romance option number 2 is more of a mainstay in the anime community since it finished airing in 2015. Your Lie in April was the first series that I ever gave a 10 out of 10. It was a show that moved me, spurned me in real life, and made me take a chance on making the decisions that I was pushing back on. This show, about some kids who have to go through way too much for a kid their age, is more of your typical generic romance plot, but it's also surrounded by a wonderful array of classical music played by our characters. Our protagonist, Kosei, is a child piano prodigy, following in the footsteps of his mother, who lovingly encouraged him to play by bonking him with her cane of love anytime he strayed far from what was written on the sheet music. It was her belief that music should be played exactly as it was written, and thus, Kosei became a piano-playing robot by the time he hit high school. Much to the ire of his competitors who wanted to beat him in their competitions, Kosei continued to drown in the abyss that was created by his toxic mother, who beat him out of love. His life felt like a deep pit of despair where he was drowning in constantly. But one day, that all changed. Enter Kaori Miyazono, violinist extraordinaire. Full of energy and looking to date Kosei's friend Watari, they quickly form a bond after she attacks him because she thinks he's perving on her. This bond develops into the real story about how Kosei needs her to lift him out of the depths of sorrow and make him love music again. Her free spirit, changing the way that music is written to give it her own flavor, is not something that he's used to, and pushing those boundaries of monotony lightens up his life. His friends Tsubaki and Watari take notice, and it drives them to excel in their own challenges in their own sports and support Kosei and Kaori in their own competitions. The supporting cast for Your Lie in April is also just so much more than support for the main cast. They get their own development as well, and it really makes you feel like you're part of this group of friends. You follow their desires to reach their goals just as much and cheer for their successes and mourn their failures. This anime is one that is not afraid to tell you its story, put you through the emotional ringer, and give you a hug afterwards and show you it will be alright. This is another show that I would put near the top of this list regardless of the genre that a new anime watcher would want to break their seal on. And that isn't even mentioning the banger of an opening that is Hikaru Nara. Not only the animation is on point, but also the sound design and the soundtrack for Vivi is all top tier. This story is action-packed but still serious, as Vivi deals with her role of protecting the futures of those around her that she cares about. Being forced into the choice of saving your loved ones or saving humanity is a choice often presented in narratives that require a sense of scale, but since Vivi handles time travel quite well, it makes it a more realistic story that will keep you holding on until the very last second. All I'm saying is go watch Vivi now. I don't know why you're still listening to this. Once time travel's invented, you're just gonna come back from the future until now to tell yourself to watch Vivi sooner. So go, do your future self a favor, go watch Vivi. Man, all of this talk about time travel and I didn't even mention Steins Gate yet. If you're a sci-fi fan that wants to get into anime, then that craving can be satisfied by Steins Gate. At the time of writing, currently ranked 4th on my anime list, Steins Gate knows exactly what kind of show it is, and it knows damn well how to tell a story in a logical way that's true to life and very entertaining. This synopsis I'm going to leave very brief as to try to not confuse you before you even start the show. Rentaro Okabe is a scientist working with his roommate Itaru, trying to invent gadgets that will baffle the human psyche, but all he has managed to make so far is a microwave that turns bananas into goo. He attends a convention held by Kurisu Makase on the subject of time travel that leads him to discover that the microwave can actually send text messages into the past as a form of time travel. But with this discovery comes the consequence of becoming on the radar of an organization called CERN, and sends Rentaro's sanity into a downward spiral. As far as sci-fi goes, this show is not far out there in terms when it comes to fiction, as the story stays very grounded in reality throughout its duration. Let this roller coaster of scientific discovery take you through all of the loops as this train of a narrative doesn't stop until the last second of the last episode. Now, the title of this category will probably rub some people the wrong way or make them sad to realize how old they've gotten, but this is what I'm rolling with. Anime more than 15 years old at the time of writing, I would call in a class of their own. And thus, there are 2 shows I can still wholeheartedly recommend to any anime viewer trying to start in a more traditional fashion. The first of those being Monster. As a category from the rest of the video, this show would be a drama, psychological thriller, and mystery. Set in Germany, a Japanese doctor, Kenzo Tenma, has his life going well for him. Unfortunately for other people, things are not fine, especially for the Lieberts. Police rush into their home, find the parents dead on the floor, the daughter standing over her brother, who is alive, but with a bullet in his head. They are rushed to the hospital, and Dr. Tenma is scheduled to operate on this boy. Only he is a skilled enough surgeon to be able to save him. Gear on and about to save a life, Dr. Tenma is suddenly interrupted by a phone call from the hospital director. A celebrity needs emergency surgery, and they want their best surgeon on the job to make sure he has a successful surgery and recovery, all to farm the clout. Tenma is now at an impasse. He knows that if someone else operates on this child, they won't be able to save his life. The boy was there first and is ready for surgery, but if Dr. Tenma doesn't do as he is ordered, there will be repercussions for him, even if there are other surgeons that can perform the lower level of surgery on the celebrity who has not yet arrived. Tenma sticks with his morals and operates on the child, saving his life. This decision is what sparks our story, as Tenma lives to regret saving this child. I can only promise 2 episodes are needed to convince you to finish this one out. I was gripped instantly, and boy am I glad I found this show because it's also on my list of anime as a 10 out of 10. Monster's plot is so wild, I want you to experience it yourself. It ramps up so quickly after the first few episodes, you'll be questioning where you started the series and how quickly you got to where you're at now. Not missing any vital details that I needed to tell the story, it just is exponentially good. Another perk of making this your first anime is that you're automatically inducted into the short list of classy watchers who enjoyed Monster, because nobody finishes this show and then complains about the narrative. Thrilling, complete, and entirely unique. Even if it isn't your first, it should most definitely be on your list to watch. Saving the best for last, and probably the one anime that is most recommended for anyone looking to delve into the world of Japanese animation, the long-standing classic, Cowboy Bebop. It would be a crime to not include this on the list, as I believe it may also be the best choice on this list for anyone who doesn't mind the oldness to it, but that old, classic, vintage, gorgeous charm is exactly why this anime is still seen all over today. The anime is a treasure trove for lo-fi hip-hop videos, giving that background the perfect aesthetic that they're searching for. Wrapped up in a visually pleasing package is a bunch of smooth jazz and a story for the ages. This show centers around Spike Spiegel, a bounty hunter aboard the Bebop, owned by Jet Black. They make their living hunting criminals around the galaxy while they are both trying to escape the darkness in their past. Joined by Faye Valentine, Ed, and Ein, Spike's past catches up to the rowdy crew aboard the Bebop, and he must make a choice on pursuing his revenge or staying with the family that formed around him. Cowboy Bebop is a dark, action drama, sci-fi space western tale that is presented so beautifully you can't take your eyes off the screen. A gateway drug of an anime as there could be. Cowboy Bebop tops my list of shows to get someone hooked on the medium, and it wholly deserves the honor. Once you tell your friends that you have finished it, you'll get a nice out of them as they look upon you proudly. It might have aired over 20 years ago, but it stands the test of time and is a tried and true hit. And honestly, maybe the entire reason I wanted to make a video like this, to start talking about anime on my channel, was so I could tell you people to watch Cowboy Bebop. Though other people should have already told you before you got here. I suppose that it was already written in the cosmos then. This is the first anime video on my channel, and I wanted to start at the beginning. My beginning. And maybe the beginning of other anime fans who are watching. I wanted to include movies in this too, but I may make a second video if that's what people want to see. Do you have any other recommendations for a starter? What was the first anime you watched? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching.